In the year 1833, the British Empire officially abolished slavery. It was celebrated as a moral victory and a turning point in human history. More than 800,000 enslaved people were legally declared free across the empire. But inside that same law, there was another decision. The British government chose to compensate the slave owners, not the enslaved. 20 million pounds were paid to plantation owners for the loss of what the law still described as property. To do this, the state borrowed the money. That debt was real. It was formal, and it remained on the public books for generations. In fact, that debt was not fully repaid until the year 2015. This means that for nearly 2 centuries, ordinary citizens helped repay a loan created to end slavery by compensating those who had benefited from it. The enslaved were legally free, but the debt endured. At the time, this arrangement did not cause outrage. It appeared administrative, technical, almost invisible. There were no revolts, no mass protests, no sense that something deeper had changed. Yet this moment marked something new. For the first time, freedom was accompanied by long-term financial obligation, an obligation that quietly outlived everyone involved. No chains were visible, no force was applied, only contracts. And history continued, as if nothing fundamental had shifted. Before debt became structural, power was visible. In ancient and medieval societies, control was exercised through land, labor, and force. Kings ruled territories. Empires expanded through conquest. Wealth was measured in grain, gold, and manpower. If people were exploited, it was obvious. If they were unfree, it was legally defined. Economic exchange existed, but it did not dominate political authority. Money facilitated trade. It did not govern states. Even in early modern Europe, monarchies financed wars mainly through taxation and conquest. Debt existed, but it was limited and temporary. A ruler who borrowed too much risked rebellion. The structure was simple. Those who ruled land commanded loyalty. Those who worked land obeyed authority. But this system began to strain. Wars became more expensive. Empires expanded faster than revenue could support. Standing armies required constant funding. By the 16th and 17th centuries, European states faced a new reality. Political ambition had outgrown traditional sources of income. This is when financial innovation entered the story. Merchant banks in cities like Genoa, Florence, and Amsterdam began lending to governments. At first, this seemed practical, even progressive. Credit allowed states to act immediately and pay later. But something subtle changed. Decision-making began to depend on creditors. Governments had to maintain confidence. Budgets shifted focus. Power slowly began to move, not through violence, but through obligation. In 1694, the Bank of England was founded. It is rarely described as a dramatic event. Most textbooks present it as a technical solution to a financial problem. The English crown needed money to wage war. Private investors agreed to lend it. In return, they received interest and permanence. The bank was given authority to manage government debt and issue banknotes backed by that debt. From this point forward, money entered circulation as a claim on future revenue. This was new. Money was no longer simply a medium of exchange. It became a promise. At the time, this appeared stabilizing. There was little public reaction, no widespread concern, yet the consequences were profound. Governments no longer borrowed occasionally. They began to exist within debt. The goal shifted, not to eliminate debt, but to manage it. This model spread. Central banks appeared across Europe. Public debt became permanent. money and obligation merged. And with that merger, a new form of dependence quietly emerged. Look at the 19th century. Industrialization demanded massive investment. Railways, ports, factories. These projects were financed through bonds. Public records show a pattern. Governments borrowed heavily. Private capital funded expansion. Interest became a fixed obligation. When financial crises struck, debt did not disappear. It intensified. Official correspondence from the period shows concern focused on market confidence, not social stability. After the First World War, the pattern deepened. European nations emerged financially exhausted. Loans replaced victory. The Dawes Plan reorganized German debt using foreign credit. On paper, the system appeared stable, but it relied on continuous borrowing. When credit stopped, collapse followed. The Great Depression exposed the fragility of debt-based recovery. Governments responded by formalizing financial systems even further. In 1944, global institutions were created to stabilize currencies and manage reconstruction. Their language was neutral. Their structure was permanent. Internal reports later revealed recurring themes: debt sustainability, conditional assistance, structural reform. No force was used. No occupation occurred. Only agreements. By the late 20th century, the same mechanisms applied to individuals. Mortgages expanded home ownership. Student loans expanded education. Consumer credit expanded participation. The contracts were voluntary. The structure was clear. Access required obligation. Across centuries, systems change. Structures remain. From imperial treasuries to central banks, the logic persists. Future labor secures present stability. In ancient societies, this was explicit. In modern ones, it is contractual. Historians note that as physical coercion declined, financial mechanisms expanded. Not through conspiracy, through efficiency. Debt reduced resistance. It incentives aligned. It transformed control into compliance. Centralization followed. Monetary policy became specialized. Decision-making moved away from public assemblies. Different eras, different institutions. The same structure, power exercised through continuity. Today, debt is normal. It defines public policy. It shapes private life. Investment funds move capital faster than governments can respond. Credit ratings influence nations. This influence is procedural, not dramatic. Budgets are adjusted. Reforms are negotiated. Stability is prioritized. Debt is framed as responsibility, as maturity, as participation, and in many ways, it works. But it also narrows choices. Economic historians observe that highly indebted societies behave predictably. They avoid risk. They conform. They depend. No chains are visible. The system sustains itself. History rarely announces its turning points. They appear quietly, in laws, in contracts, in balance sheets. Slavery ended. Debt expanded. Freedom increased. Obligation remained. No single decision created this system. No single actor controls it. It emerged legally, rationally, efficiently, and that may be its most unsettling feature. If control no longer requires force, if obedience no longer requires fear, if the future can be pledged in advance, then the question is no longer who rules. The question is this: what does freedom mean? In a world where the future is already owed?